This is a case of a Cinderella story gone horribly wrong. In this case, there won't be any glass slipper. There won't be any handsome prince. The defendant doesn't have to be home by midnight. And there won't be any happy ending. Because this is a case where you only have the evil stepmother. And as a result of that, an 11-year-old child was starved to death at her hand, while her own children remained healthy and happy.
In 2015, Eman Moss was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole for his involvement in the brutal murder of his daughter, Emani Moss. However, his trial was not the final chapter of this tragic story. On April 25, 2019, Moss took the stand once more, not as the defendant, but as the witness, this time against his wife, Tiffany Moss, who stood accused of starving and ultimately killing Emani in 2013. Emani's death, while horrific, was not an isolated incident. In the years leading up to her death, Emani repeatedly attempted to reach out and expose the unimaginable horrors she endured at home. Despite her attempts to seek help, those pleas largely went unanswered. As the courtroom assembled in 2019, nearly 6 years after Emani's death, the public and those in attendance were finally poised to hear the full extent of her suffering as a trial against Tiffany Moss unfolded. Emani's story began long before her tragic demise. In the early 2000s, her biological mother, struggling with addiction, surrendered her parental rights, and custody of Emani was granted to her father, Emani Moss. At the time, it was hoped that a fresh start would provide Emani with a safer environment. However, this new chapter did not shield her from the abuse that would follow. By 2004, when Emani was only 1 year old, her father had already been convicted of domestic violence. He was found guilty of beating Emani's mother in front of her, resulting in a conviction for battery and second-degree child cruelty. Over the years, baby Emani endured further abuse, not only at the hands of her father, but also from Tiffany Moss, his new wife. Tiffany, a teacher by profession, had met Eman Moss at their church. The two began dating and married in July 2009, later having 2 children together. However, their household was far from the idyllic family unit it appeared to be. In 2010, when Emani was just 6 years old, her fear of returning home after receiving a poor report card led to her to confide in a school counselor. Emani expressed her anxiety about her father and stepmother's reaction to the card, revealing that she was terrified of the violence she faced at home. The counselor, alarmed by Emani's disclosures, examined the child and discovered multiple injuries, bruises and marks on her arms, legs, chest, and back. The school promptly contacted authorities, and Tiffany Moss was arrested. She later admitted to striking Emani for failing to complete her homework and was charged with first-degree child cruelty. During Tiffany's trial, testimony from witnesses shed light on the extent of the abuse, painting a chilling picture of the environment in which Emani had lived.
She told me she got in trouble by her stepmom, Tiffany Moss, for not doing her homework the previous night, and she was spanked with a brown leather belt.
Did she tell you how many times she'd been struck?
She's several times. She had bruises and welts all over her body, to include her arms, chest, back, and legs.
All right. Did you document those injuries?
Yes, I did.
All right. Sergeant King, were those photographs taken at your direction?
Yes, they were.
And are they a true and accurate representation of the injuries that you observed on that child that day?
Yes.
Sergeant Diane King was convinced that Emani was being subjected to abuse at the hands of her stepmother, Tiffany Moss. Her thorough documentation of the injuries and testimony contributed to Tiffany's conviction on charges of child abuse in 2010. However, instead of prison time, Tiffany Moss was granted 5 years of probation under Georgia's first offender program, a decision that was influenced by the Georgia Division of Family and Children's Services. In the aftermath of Tiffany's arrest and the 2010 trial, Emani was temporarily removed from her dad's custody. She was placed in the care of her grandmother, Robin, where she remained for 6 months.
Did Emani go to school while she was there staying with you?
Yes, I took her to school every day, picked her up every day.
Did she remain at the same school that she had begun the school year out and then finished it out while she was there with you?
She did.
How was Emani doing in school at that particular time?
Well, when she was with me, everything was improving, her grades, her action, and she was just doing awesome, a lot better than she was, because they said she was closed in, and she started having tantrums and screaming. So I don't know what was going on before then, but I know when she came back with me, everything calmed back down in her life.
And she stayed there with you then through the spring and the summer. Did she begin her school year still living with you there in 2010?
She was with me until school was over, and then after that, she was back with her father.
You said so she stayed about 6 months. So the beginning of the 2010 school year then, was she placed back with Eman and the defendant in this case?
Yes.
With regard to that, did you want, without going into a lot of detail, but did you want Emani to still remain with you and live with you at that time?
Yes, I did. I went and fought it for it.
And when you say you went and fought it, was that a decision that was made by the Department of Family and Children's Services?
Yes, it was.
That was it their decision to place Emani back with the defendant, Tiffany Moss, and her dad, Emani Moss?
Yes, it was.
You indicated you did object to that. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. But ultimately, she did not stay living with you. She went back with the defendant and her dad.
Yes.
After that time in 2010, were you able to see Emani very often?
No.
Did you make efforts to try to see her from that fall of 2010 until ultimately she died?
Yes, I did.
Would you, what type of efforts did you make in order to try to talk to her or see her?
I called my son, and he would just say,
Can't tell me a lot about what Eman said, okay? But were you allowed to see her?
I was not allowed to see her.
This move would ultimately prove to be a matter of life or death for the young girl. Emani was thrown back into the familiar turmoil of her father and stepmother's home. But by July 2012, she had already attempted to run away twice. After her first escape, Emani ran to the office of a nearby apartment complex. She told the staff her stepmom had tied her up with a belt and forced her into a freezing shower. When the police arrived at the Moss residence, Tiffany insisted that Emani was lying. Without sufficient evidence of the alleged abuse, authorities felt they had no choice but to send Emani back home. Then, the second time Emani tried to save herself, she didn't make it far enough to ask for help. A police officer found Emani sleeping in the bushes outside the apartment complex. She tried to explain the abuse that went on inside her home, but it seemed that no one was listening. Authorities returned Emani to her abusers for a second time. At home, Emani rarely saw her father. Eman Moss worked 2 demanding jobs, leaving early in the morning and typically returning only briefly in the late afternoon before leaving again by 6 p.m. Most nights, he didn't return until late. In his absence, Tiffany assumed the role of primary caregiver. However, it became quickly evident to those outside the household that Tiffany showed little concern for Emani's well-being. During Mother's Day weekend in 2013, the Moss family attended a gathering at Moss's sister Sharonice's home. Relatives were taken aback when they noticed that Emani's hair had been cut short. When Emani's grandmother confronted Tiffany about the drastic change, her response was shocking.
So you're at Sharonice's house, and how did Emani appear to you then?
She was so thin, so thin. She had this shirt on, and you can see the bones protruding out of her shoulders. And in her arms, she was so skinny, I wasn't used to that.
How was her hair?
Cut off. All of it. It's cut.
You said that you noticed her hair on Mother's Day, and why was it so different to you?
Because Emani had long hair, and it shouldn't have been cut.
Did you ask about how her hairstyle came to be like that?
Yes, I did. I said, why is her hair cut off?
And who did you ask that to?
I asked Tiffany that.
And what was the response?
If you act ugly, you should look ugly.
That Mother's Day was the last time Emani's extended family would ever see her alive. Robin's concerns about Emani's frailty were tragically accurate. By 2013, the Mosses were systematically starving Emani, a form of abuse that the prosecution later determined had lasted nearly 2 weeks. During this period, Emani was confined to her bedroom, isolated from the outside world. Neighbors reported only ever seeing Tiffany's biological children, not Emani. That summer, the Mosses withdrew Emani from public school, announcing their intent to begin homeschooling her. Emani's aunt, Sharonice, raised alarms about the situation and contacted the Georgia Division of Family and Children Services, urging them to intervene. However, her concerns were dismissed. On August 6, 2013, an anonymous tip was submitted to DFCS. The tipster expressed concern about Emani's severe neglect and dangerously low weight. However, the agency claimed they could not locate the family due to lack of a current address, and ultimately, they failed to follow up with the Mosses. As the weeks turned into months, Emani's condition continued to deteriorate. She grew so weak that she could no longer move. By October 24, 2013, her body began to shut down. That evening, Eman Moss returned home to find Tiffany in a state of panic. She claimed something was wrong with Emani. In the bathroom, he found his daughter convulsing, her eyes rolling uncontrollably.
So when you went back into your apartment, is that when you found Emani in the bathtub?
Yeah, I went in there. I know she was giving me pictures. She sent me a picture. Text. She said she done feed the kids. Tiffany.
Tiffany was in. And in those pictures, she said that she had fed the kids.
Yeah, on the phone she said I had fed all the kids. So I'm at that point when I'm coming in the house, I think they all asleep. I come in. I go to the little laundry room, put my toolbox in. I go to the kitchen. Said something about a new dish that she made. Go look in the refrigerator. I come out the kitchen and Tiffany tells me to come in. She said something wrong with Emani. I leave there. I go into the bathroom. She's in the tub, and she's shaking like she having a seizure.
So what did you do?
I didn't go with my first mind. I said we need to go take her to 911 or take her to the hospital.
Did Tiffany have anything to say about when you said that?
Said we can't.
Did she explain to you why you couldn't take your daughter to the hospital?
She was real thin.
Yeah, but did Tiffany tell you why you couldn't take your daughter to the hospital?
No, she didn't give me why.
Moss believed his daughter had experienced a seizure and moved her to the bed. For the next 4 days, she remained there without receiving any medical attention. Moss later claimed that he attempted to feed Emani, but by then, the damage to her body was so extensive that it could not be undone.
So, after Tiffany said we can't call the doctor, we can't take her to the hospital, what'd you do with her?
Kept her in the room.
In which room?
In her room.
I mean, did you put her on the floor, or where did you put her?
On a mattress, and on the floor.
Eman, did she ever get up out of that bed?
No, she didn't after the seizure thing. No, she didn't.
Did you go in and check on her in the days that followed?
Yes. I was trying excuse me, sorry about that. Yes, I did. And I was trying to feed her through a spoon with infant.
What?
Okay.
Moss testified in the days following Emani's seizure, he attempted to feed her baby formula, but she refused to eat. Emani's suffering finally ended on October 28, 2013. During the trial, Moss recounted the moment he realized his daughter had died.
What was Tiffany telling you about what you needed to do at that point?
She was saying that we can't call 911, we can't do that. We got to hide the body.
Well, why did she tell you that we can't call 911? I mean, you're this child's father.
Cause she said, I'm on probation, I don't wanna go to jail.
And how did you get the notification that Emani had
It
died?
was on a Tuesday, I know, much when, it was through a phone call.
Right? Where were you when you got the phone
I
call?
was at work.
And did you actually speak to Tiffany, or did you just get a text?
I think I talked to her on the phone.
And what did she tell you?
She said she's gone. She didn't say too much. She said she's gone.
After learning of his daughter's death, Moss completed his shift at work and returned home around 3:30 that afternoon. When he arrived, everything seemed strangely normal. Tiffany was watching TV, and Emani's siblings were playing together. In another room, Emani's lifeless body lay on a blanket. Moss stated that he suggested calling the police, but Tiffany rejected the idea. She warned him that they would lose custody of their other children and pressured him to help cover up Emani's death.
At this point, I'm devastated. I'm really messed up, honestly. I go in the room, and from that time, I usually take a nap. I was in the room with a Emani body until about time to go to work to Avery.
All right, let me ask you, did you do anything to confirm that she had died?
She was dead.
How could you tell?
I've been in a lot of funerals, and I can tell, she was cold. Her essence was there. Her eyes, she was gone.
Where was Tiffany when you came in the house?
When I walked in, the other two kids, Tristan was running around playing. He came in, I'm really messed up at the time. He said, Daddy, Daddy. I walked past him, Emma in the pack and play, and she was watching TV.
Did you have any conversation with her when you walked by her watching TV?
No, not at that moment.
And after you went into the room and saw that Emani was dead, did you go out and talk to Tiffany?
Yes, that was after. You talking about after I came from in there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, what did y'all talk about?
Talking about concealing her death, making it like since she had a history of running away, make it seem like she ran away.
But Eman, let me ask you, when you discovered your daughter dead, what did you want to do?
911. But
What did Tiffany want to do?
she wanted to hide it.
Tiffany proposed that Moss help her bury Emani in an effort to fabricate a story that Emani had run away once again. Only this time, she would never be found. Moss agreed. Together, they attempted to cover up the truth. He wrapped Emani's body in blankets and moved her to their computer room. While her remains lay in the apartment, Moss continued with his routine, heading off to his second job as usual. For days, life for the Moss family continued in a disturbing semblance of normalcy, with the computer room serving as an improvised morgue. On the nights following his return home, Moss claimed he grieved in private. Still, he never reported Emani's death to authorities, nor did he confide in anyone outside the household. On October 29th, the day after Emani's death, Tiffany took steps to further conceal the truth. She went to a nearby linen store and bought new sheets to replace the ones that had been soiled by Emani's death.
What did you buy at the Walmart?
About best of my recollection, I bought a bag of Choco, 10 trash can, box of lawn, garbage bag. I think lawn garbage bag.
About what time of the day or night was that? Do you remember?
This was late at night because I think Walmart was 24 hours. I can't remember the time. I know it was late at night.
it's late at night and you're at a Walmart and you buy a trash can and you buy a lawn bags and you buy charcoal briquettes.
Yes.
Why'd you buy those?
To try to call myself trying to cremate the body, and you can't cremate the body. I didn't know that then.
Whose idea was it to cremate the body?
I think it was. I think she just wanted to bury the body. And I didn't want to bury the body, so I guess it was my idea to try to cremate.
As their children slept, Tiffany and Moss carried out their plan. However, things did not go as smoothly as they had anticipated. When they attempted to place Emani's body into the trash can, they found it didn't fit. Rigor mortis had set in, making her body stiff, something that shouldn't have been surprising, given that Emani had been left in the computer room for days, and rigor mortis typically begins after just a few hours. The couple resorted to using duct tape to compress Emani's limbs. Moss then shoved her body into a garbage bag, placing it into the trash can he had purchased at Walmart, and left it in the back of the trailer to remain there until morning.
Did Tiffany help you with that?
Yes, she did.
Eman, your daughter's been dead for 3 days now. How difficult was it to get her folded up like that?
Very, very much difficult.
Were there sounds?
Kind of like, I guess, like cracking sound. I can't explain. I don't know what to compare it to. What I'm saying.
And after you got her duct taped together, what happened then?
After that, she helps me, you know, because she's a lot more heavier than she was before. To put her in the lawn bag.
Where was the trash can at that point?
Trash can was in the vehicle, the trailblazer.
And once you got Emani into the trash bag, what did you do then?
From that moment, I tied up the trash bag that she was in, and then I took another bag, and I think Tiffany took the blankets and stuff that she had and put them all in the other stuff.
Now, the blankets came from where?
The comforter, her comforter bed, her blanket that she was wrapped into.
But whose bed was it?
That was Emani.
Was that bed soiled? Was it? I mean, was there where she had gone to the bathroom in the bed?
Yes.
What did you do with the mattress?
I know Tiffany said she had cleaned the mattress.
Right. So you packed one garbage bag with blankets and were there clothes in it?
Yes.
And so you have two of these trash bags, one of them with your daughter. And what do you do then?
From that, then I take the trash bag and then the body, and I put her in the back of the trailblazer.
In the early hours of November 1st, Tiffany and Eman loaded their 3 children into the family vehicle, 2 of their living children in the back seat, and the garbage can containing Emani's body in the trunk. They drove in search of a secluded location to dispose of Emani's remains. Once they found a spot, they drenched the garbage can with lighter fluid and set it on fire. However, incinerating a body inside a container proved far more difficult than they had anticipated. Without a steady flow of oxygen, the fire was unable to reduce the body to ash. After just 5 minutes, the Mosses put out the flames and returned home, the body still intact inside the can.
So you put the body of your daughter back in the trailblazer, and where did y'all go?
I put it back in the car. At this point, it's probably 4 o'clock in the morning. It's about the time I'm about to go to work for the first shift job. So I took it back. She wanted me to bury it. I couldn't do it. So I put it back in the thing.
Back in the thing.
Back into the car.
Okay. Okay.
truck, I mean.
So she wanted you to bury it right there where you were, and you put it back in the truck. And where did you go from there?
From there, I had a body in the thing. I took her back home with the kids. They was in the back sleep. Took her back to the apartment. From there, I'm not sleeping. I didn't sleep all night. It's about 4 o'clock now. I get ready to go to the first shift job.
By get ready, what do you mean?
I mean, get dressed, get ready to go to the first shift job. I go, right now I'm all over the place, I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm out of it, so I take Emani body that's in the truck and take it with me to work at the first shift job.
I mean, so you parked in a parking lot with the body of your daughter in the back of your car?
Yes, I did. I was out of it, sir.
And when you went to work, did you finish that shift?
Yes, I did.
During his morning shift, weighed down by fear or perhaps guilt, Eman confided in a friend about what he and Tiffany had done to Emani. The friend strongly urged him to contact the police, but it wasn't until the end of his shift at his second job that Eman finally decided to make the call. Before dialing 911, he returned home and told Tiffany they needed to notify authorities about what happened. Tiffany, however, disagreed.
Before I called 911, I went back to the house. Telling Tiffany, I'm like, man, this ain't right. We got to call 911. And she was like, no. I like, we got to call 911.
So what did she do? When you told her you're calling 911, what did she do?
She get the kids ready. She get them dressed. She get dressed. She get in the car. I think she got the trash can because the trash can wasn't in the car anymore. And she got in the car and she drove off to her mother's house. At the time, I thought called 911.
And what, you called 911 at that point?
Yes.
And then the police arrived?
Yeah, right.
Moss confessed the truth to the dispatcher and claimed he had thoughts of taking his own life too. Meanwhile, Tiffany packed her 2 children into the Trailblazer and fled.
Let's move forward to the early morning hours of November 2nd. Did you see Tiffany on those early morning hours?
Yes.
Okay, and where did you see your daughter, Tiffany Moss?
Home.
Okay, and how, do you remember what time that was, ma'am?
It was quite early because I was asleep.
And did she have a key to your house, or did she have to wake you up to get inside to the house?
She woke me up to get in the house.
And when she got there to the house and woke you up, did she wake you up by knocking on the door? Did she ring the doorbell, or do you remember how that happened?
Both.
And what did you do?
I was ill at the time, so I really didn't hear her. I was groggy. I came downstairs and opened the door.
Who did you see standing at the door at that time?
Tiffany.
What if anything, did the defendant tell you when you opened the door and you saw them standing there?
Basically, they came in. She just said, what took you so long? Because I didn't hear the knocking or the bell. Basically, she brought the children in and went back to the vehicle to get like the car seat and stuff like that and their clothes.
Did she tell you why she was there?
She said that don't let them take my children. That part is a blur because some parts I remember that I don't remember if I heard it then or later.
But you distinctly remember her saying, "Don't let them take my children." Mm-hmm. Where did she give you? Or where were they?
She gave me. She had to get the seat out the car and the clothes, belongings.
Did you ask her at that time when she said, "Don't let them take my children"? Did you ask her what she was referring to, or who they were, or anything of that nature?
Yes, I'm assuming the police. And I get.
Did she? Go ahead. I'm sorry, ma'am.
I thought she had said Emani's dead.
And based on that, what did you do?
This is something I'm remembering afterwards. I really can't remember. It's just a blur.
Now, you said that she got there and she had the children. Do you know how she got to your house that night?
Their vehicle,
And what vehicle was that, ma'am?
the van.
Is it like a Trailblazer?
Yes.
Okay, all right. How was your daughter behaving during that time frame? What was her demeanor like?
She was stressed. Upset. She was just stressed. She was upset.
Soon after, Tiffany turned herself in. Eman Moss eventually gave police a full confession, admitting his involvement in both attempting to destroy Emani's body and covering up her cause of death. In 2015, he pled guilty to felony murder and concealing a death. In exchange for his testimony against Tiffany, Eman avoided the death penalty and was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. In April 2019, Tiffany chose to represent herself at trial, rejecting a plea deal that could have spared her life.
This is a case of a Cinderella story gone horribly wrong. In this case, there won't be any glass slipper. There won't be any handsome prints. The defendant doesn't have to be home by midnight. And there won't be any happy ending. Because this is a case where you only have the evil stepmother. And as a result of that, an 11-year-old child was starved to death at her hand, while her own children remained healthy and happy.
This is the jury's verdict in case 18B 1541-1. This is the state of Georgia versus Tiffany Nicole Moss.
On April 29, 2019, the jury found Tiffany Moss guilty on all counts, including malice murder and 2 counts of felony murder. In their closing arguments, the prosecution characterized Tiffany as someone with a dark and unchanging capacity for cruelty and urged the jury to impose the death penalty. After a brief deliberation, the jury returned their verdict. At the sentencing hearing in May, Tiffany Moss was sentenced to death, becoming Georgia's first death row inmate in over 5 years. She is currently held at Arendelle State Prison, where she is the state's only female death row prisoner. If executed, Tiffany would become the 3rd woman to be put to death in Georgia since 1945. The tragic and preventable death of Emani Moss highlights the critical importance of family, community, mandated reporting, and the urgent need for reform within the systems designed to protect vulnerable children.